Welcome to day 7 of 20 days of learning with Illustrator. Today we're going to learn about strokes. Something I'm doing different today is showing you the end result first so that you can get a little bit of an idea of what we're going to do. Now what's unique about this drawing is all of the overlay objects, all these little lines that you see, they're all individual paths. In other words, this arrow here, this is just a single path. I could draw an arrow like this, but I used features within the stroke panel to give me that effect. Same thing with this line right over here. This is a single path and I used specific stroke effects to give me that dotted line. So today I'm going to have you watch me apply some of these similar effects on a brand new drawing. So let's get this edited version out of the way and start with this clean version of the same car. And to draw most of these effects, I'm going to use the pencil tool. This is hidden underneath the shaper tool usually. It's right here. I also want to adjust some of the settings in my pencil tool by double clicking. I want to make sure that I have keep selected not checked, and I want my fidelity moved all the way up to smooth. This will just make it a little bit easier to draw, especially since I'm drawing with my mouse today. Now I have the pencil tool selected and I'm almost ready to go. I want to switch the fill color over to my stroke by hitting Shift and X, and then I'm going to double click on my stroke and switch this over to white because I'm going to be using white for most of this drawing. The pencil tool is basically a freehand drawing tool. So when I draw those circles, I'm going to draw kind of freehand, but that fidelity detail that I added earlier or adjusted earlier, that basically smooths out my drawings so that they're not going to be so janky because of my mouse. Now that I've drawn a path, let's go ahead and adjust the stroke. I'll select my object like this, come up here, click on the stroke tool. If this isn't available, you can come up to Window and come down and find Stroke to open up that same window. If you're not seeing all these same options available, you may need to hide options or expand options so that it looks like mine. The first thing I'll show you is the weight. I can adjust the weight of my stroke simply by increasing it, or I can just type into the box whatever I want my weight to be. You'll notice that the stroke around my path is now larger. Let's draw a few other lines to give you an idea about how some of these other tools could work as well. Let's draw those arrows that were along the bus. So I'll go ahead and just draw a line here and then select that line. From here, I'm going to actually turn this line into an arrow by selecting these arrowhead options. So I'll drop down, select arrow number 1, and I like that well enough. The only thing that's a little funny about these arrows is sometimes you have to scale them separately using this scale tool here. So I'm going to come in here and say, you know what, I really want it to be just like 30%. Nope, that's still a little too small, so let's come up, back up to like 45. There we go, I like that arrow. Let's go ahead and draw another line here, do the same thing, select that and adjust the arrow to the same kind of arrow, switch it down to about 30%, 40%. There we go. Let's draw in those lines that we had around the tires. So I'll go ahead and add in some of these lines here, just kind of drawing them freehand. That's why I'm using the pencil tool, so I can get that kind of almost hand-drawn look. It still obviously looks like it was drawn with a computer, but it gives me a little bit more of a less perfect, less symmetrical look. Now let's draw the motion lines coming off of the van, so they kind of go something like this, and we're going to have some that go like that, and then another one like that. There we go, I like that. However, if you remember our old van lines, they actually started really thin, got a little thicker in the middle, and then went really thin again at the end. To make that adjustment, I'm going to select all of those paths and adjust my profile to one of these preset profiles. I'll select just this width profile 1. Let's increase the width a little bit. Notice that the width overall is increasing, but my profile where it goes from thin, thick, thin stays the same. So I can increase my width a little bit and I still have that effect there. Now let's draw the star that was right up here at the top, and I kind of want that hand-drawn fill. I can't actually draw stars really well, so we're going to see how well this works out. There we go, good enough. I may need to select these and kind of pull that out a little bit. There we go, that looks a little bit better. Still looks pretty hand-drawn. Something I want to adjust about these paths though is those corners are really, really sharp. So there's a few ways I can change this. I could manipulate the path directly, or I can select this and within my stroke menu, change the corners to a rounded joint. That's going to give it just a little bit of a softer edge. I can select this, let's make it a little smaller, kind of stick that up in the corner there. Now we'll draw the person that sits inside the cab here, so we'll switch back over to the pencil tool and kind of do a little bit of a profile of a person. Just really simple. Oh, didn't do what I wanted. Let's start that over. And we'll draw the profile of a person, just keep it really simple. There we go, good enough for me. To make this a dotted line like we had in the other image, we need to select this, switch it over to a dashed line, and you'll notice this is going to create some little dashes. It's defaulting to my previous selection, but you can adjust this dash and gap box to create whatever dashed pattern you want to. If you do no gap, it will just default to whatever the dash is. To create the dotted line like we had before, we're going to have to select this dash, make it 0 pixels, hit enter, and then actually bring this gap to whatever we want it to be. We'll say 15. Now you can see those little tiny lines have been added in there that you can see. To turn these into circles, we're going to adjust the cap to a round cap. That's going to give us the little nice round dots that we like. If you want to adjust the size of those little circles, you can adjust the weight of your stroke, and that's just going to adjust the size of those circles there. Depending on the purpose of your drawing, you may want to expand the appearance of some of these objects. What that means is selecting one of these objects, and notice that right now Illustrator recognizes this arrow as a path with a stroke and an arrowhead. If I want to, I can come up here to Object, hit Expand Appearance, and now the object itself has changed into several shapes. Currently they're grouped together, so let's jump into isolation mode. I can actually separate these two objects out because they've been expanded in such a way that they actually exist as two different objects. We'll jump out of isolation mode. You can even select these same objects again, hit Object and Expand Further. This will expand some of the additional details in the object. For example, that path has now become a path that is enclosed, creating that arrow shape. This can be helpful when you're trying to modify a shape rather than just adjust a path with any of the given tools within Illustrator. Well, I think that about covers it for the stroke tool. Thanks so much for tuning in, and you have a fantastic day. Bye.